Hi, my name is Toni Nielson, and I do professional development for debate coaches, especially debate coaches working in high school debate or associated with urban debate leagues. And today I'm going to talk about how you move your students up divisions or ways to help you really move your students up divisions. So every debate league has different rules and norms for moving your students up divisions. And I'm going to talk to you about the LAMDL, the Los Angeles Metropolitan Debate League. So this is primarily applies to them, but in terms of like when you have to move up, but how you move up or ways to help motivate your students, that kind of applies to everybody. So we're really talking about two moves that are really important. The first move is from the novice division up to the JV division, and then the second is from the JV division up to the varsity division. All right, so I want to start with the first one, novice to JV. All right, novice to JV. So novice to JV is not nearly the jump that your students think it is. All right, it's actually not a lot more evidence, right? Because it's a closed evidence set, which means that students can't just add evidence to the novice division. They have an evidence pack that has an affirmative and lots of negative strategy. And then when they move to JV, it doesn't really get much bigger. So that's important to know. This is not a big deal. All right. And what I mean by that is that in JV, they are going to have access to some more affirmative evidence. So maybe there's like a new advantage for JV debaters, right? There might be a couple more answers than there was in the novice division. They will get a critique when they are neg. All right, so that's important because it introduces a whole new element of strategy to the division, right? There's like a whole new debate thing to think about. So you are going to have to teach what the critique is, how the critique works when they're negative, and then you'll also have to teach them how to answer the critique when they're affirmative. But really, this is not every critique that has ever existed. This is a single critique argument, and learning how to answer a single critique is a lot easier than thinking about like every critique that has ever existed. So you're really teaching them one more argument, and that argument is attached to a concept, all right? But in the span of like, oh, they have to intake a bunch of new things, they really don't have to intake a bunch of new things. All right. So that's good because it makes it nice and contained, right? It's a contained situation. And that's why I say it's no big deal. It's not a big deal because it's a contained situation. So in LAMDL, your novice moves to JV after they have completed 3 tournaments. And we want them to be excited about that and not worried about it. So part of it is in how you talk about it. So I would, in your classroom, like in your classroom setup where you have like your debate corner and all your debate stuff, I would just post this up, right? So 3 tournaments of novice leads to JV division. Everybody knows. It's not a big deal because everybody knows now. And then when it comes time to move a novice up, we want to celebrate it. And what that means is that when you do your announcements at the beginning of practice or your class, whichever one that you have, you're going to say, hey, today, right, June is moving up to JV. All right, that's so exciting. We're so excited for June. And when we celebrate something, this like a little celebratory speech. All right, we're going to include June's top 3 accomplishments in novice, right? Because we're celebrating. All right, so Jaime's moving up today from novice to JV, and you know Jaime had a great novice division, and their top 3 accomplishments were, right, first, they were the 2nd place speaker at the whichever tournament here. Second, they had a head-to-head win against blank school, one of our rival schools. Take that, rival school. And then third, they're always a great competitor. You know, they show up, they're on time, they're happy, they're smiling, they're joking, or they're a good speaker, or whatever it is that you want to celebrate. There's a million ways to find easy ways to celebrate them. And that way it feels good to move up. Everybody here gets celebrated for moving up. We like moving up at this school. It's not a big deal because it's fun. All right. And that's great for everybody. So I really think it will be fairly easy and it will become a rite of passage. And that's really what we are looking for, right? It's by making it a little event, you've turned moving up into a rite of passage, not something for them to dread, not something that they can't control, but just like you cannot control moving from childhood into being a teenager, you cannot control moving from novice into JV. So let's celebrate your growth as a debater, right? Note their top 3 accomplishments, have the whole team clap for them, right? And then you should do that for each student that's moving up. And who cares if it takes you 20 minutes? I tell you, the long-term results of it will be well worth it. And you will have students that stop running away at the prospect of needing to move up a division. All right, so let's celebrate it. Let's make it a rite of passage. And then, of course, you have to teach the critique now as part of your pedagogy. Right? So whatever the new arguments are. And you don't have to be, don't overly sweat this, because the truth is that after a tournament, your students are going to come back with a bunch of questions. They are going to debate these new arguments from other JV debaters. They're going to come back and be like, tell me about this. Right? And then you're going to work on it the same way that you did novice, because it is still a contained evidence pack. Right? So yes, they're going to add to the plate of the things that they learn, but they're not adding a million billion things. They're adding a new type of negative strategy. Okay. All right. And I'm not saying it's not a big deal at all to learn that negative strategy. I am saying it's not a million things. It is a argument, a thing. All right. So it's very contained. All right. So going from novice JV is like going from the shallow end of the pool to the deep end of the pool. And that seems like a big jump when you're learning to swim, but you're in the pool. All right, everybody's in the pool. All right, the pool's not crazy. There are no sharks or whales or jellyfish in the pool. Now that is not true when you go from JV to varsity. This transition is much larger. It is like going from the deep end of the pool to the ocean. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that because I want to be realistic about the size of difference that your team is going through here. All right, you're going through a very different thing now. So this is a big transition, because in JV, you have this contained evidence set, and in varsity, it's anything goes. Whatever you can come up with to debate is fair game to debate. So I want us to think about what are the objections to moving up to varsity. All right, because I think a big part of helping your students transition is to be prepared for the objections, right? And also problem solves them. Okay, so the first issue might be that there aren't any varsity debaters on your team right now. All right. And so we're just always afraid of what has never existed before, right? Like there isn't any varsity here. We don't know how to be varsity because nobody's ever been varsity. That was also true of JV though. At one point, there was nobody on your team that had been JV, and then they were. And that was also true of novice. At one point, you didn't have any debaters, and then you did, and they were novice. All right. So not having any varsity before is not an obstacle. It's just a natural evolution of debate. All right. But we'll come back. We'll come back to that part. So the second might be being prepared. Right? Like you just said, every argument was possible, Toni. How do we be prepared for that? How do we keep up with the evidence and cutting our own evidence, right? Creating evidence. Yeah, like that is a real concern, cutting our own evidence, and especially for coaches who are new to debate, newish to debate, or brand new to debate. You're like, I'm just trying to keep up. How am I supposed to help them keep up as well? That is a fine and fair question. All right. And you might be concerned, like, we just don't have enough coaching, right? We don't have enough coaching. Like, I am already trying to coach, Tony, I'm already trying to coach novice, and now I'm coaching JV. And now I have this varsity stuff, and the varsity stuff is like the wide world of coaching. Like, how am I supposed to fit all of that in? Okay, these are all fair concerns. So let's talk a little bit about each one. All right, and I'm going to start with preparation. All right, let's start with preparation, because you are concerned that you're not going to be prepared for the debate. Like, how do you even know what to be prepared for? How do I even know what to be prepared for? Okay. So the first is that there's already tons of evidence. You don't have to cut evidence, and all the high school debaters all over the country using this evidence. All right. It's like a treasure trove of unending amounts of evidence. And it is on the Open Evidence Project. Okay, and I'm going to take you there right now for a minute. All right. So we'll come back to that. Here we go. We're going to go to the Open Evidence Project. There's the Open Evidence Project at the NDCA. I just Googled it, Open Evidence Project. Okay, it's going to take me here. All right. And then you got to click this little link because it got too big for this page. So they had to outsource it to a different web page. All right. Now, the first time you log in, it's going to ask you to create a login, and the login is the same as your tab room account. And if you're already planning on putting students into Varsity, you already have a tab room account. So you just log in with your tab room, like literally it's the same login and password. All right. And then you're going to end up here on the Open Evidence page. All right. On the left-hand side is the archives of all the years of debate evidence that they have. All right. And the front page is always the new debate topic, whatever the debate topic is for the year. And as you can see, it's all nice and sorted here by file type. So, let's go look at the affirmatives, Tony, just the affirmatives. All right. And the front page, by the way, has the full list of everything, but I like to use this side over here. All right. So here we are. We have just the affirmatives. All right. These are just the affirmatives. Look at all these affirmatives. This is stuff. This is stuff. All right. So all of these debate camps, which are massive debate camps staffed by college debaters and college debate coach, debate professionals, have been working all summer with groups of high school kids to make these files. All right. And all you have to do is click this little download button, and bang, that file is yours. And all of this is free open evidence. Your students can use it in any debate. They can change affirmative cases 90 times if they want this year. I don't think it's a good strategic idea, but they just pick one of these affirmatives, right? And read it, right? Get familiar with it. Make it your life. Know everything about it the same way that you did the JV pack or the novice pack. But you don't have to worry about evidence. It's here. Look at it. There's a million of them. All right. They can get, these are just the answers to disadvantages, though in all of those affirmative files, there are lots of answers too. All right. So that's, if you're like wondering where are the answers to, they're in the affirmative file. All right. They're also at the end of each of these negative files. All right. So that's really important to know. When we make a negative file in debate, at the very end of the negative file, we put all the affirmative answers that we could find while we were researching it. So if you can't find the answers to something in your affirmative file, go to the negative file and look towards the bottom of it, and the affirmative answers will be there. All right, but look at all these disadvantages. There's a million of them for them to pick from, just a million. Okay. And so there's tons of stuff for them to work on here. They do not have to cut a bunch of new evidence. All right. They can pick out disads, critiques, there's framework files, there's impacts for things here, there's case negatives, all of those affirmative cases. have a case negative right here. All they need to do is download and save them on their laptop so that they can easily access them during the tournament. So does your varsity team have to cut a bunch of evidence to keep up? They do not. Do they even need to know all of this evidence? No, they don't. They need to come up with an affirmative case that they want. They need to select a negative strategy that they want to use. So maybe they're going to be, maybe their disad is going to be an election disad. And then they are also going to read, right? So there's an election disad that they're going to read. And then maybe they are going to read the price inflation DA, right? That's 2 disads. Maybe they're going to read some topicality and some case neg. There you go. Now you've got a negative strategy. These negatives are designed to be very large and generic. They've got lots of different link arguments to apply them to different affirmatives. All right. So you pick an affirmative case and you pick a negative strategy. And then when you go to your first tournament, you will then encounter all sorts of debaters who have their own cases. And if you're like, I need to know what the case is, what is going on? Just use the whiteboard. All right, when you're like, I need to know what I need negative to this case, no problem, right? No problem. Because all you need to do is go back to open evidence and see if that case is already on open evidence. All right, so the first problem that we encountered of the JV to varsity transition, right? Because you're moving on up to the east side, is I don't feel like I'll be prepared. My students are going to have to cut evidence and they're not ready for it. And we're not ready. We can't be prepared and we don't know how to be prepared, but we can be prepared. We do know how to be prepared. All right. Because we can go to open evidence, right? We can go to the open evidence project. We're going to select an affirmative case. And, one of the things people ask me is, well, can't they just read the JV case or the novice case? Yeah, they certainly can. But mentally, they are going to associate it with the novice and JV case, right? And it's like the same thing as like my son is a teenager now. He's 13, he's almost 14. And he went over to a buddy's house, and my daughter, who's 12, said, oh, well, he went on a play date. And I could see him just get all disgruntled. And I said, you mean he went to hang out? And she said, yeah, he went to hang out with his friend. And my son was fine, right? Like it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But my son associates play dates with being a little kid. All right. And he's not a little kid anymore. He's a teenager now. So it's hanging out now. We hang out. We don't go play dates. All right. So they might think of their JV novice affirmative as a JV novice affirmative, which is why it's a good idea to have them select an affirmative case and let them have a little ownership of it, right? It's their case now and they need to get to know it, and let them pick. What you don't care which one they pick, let them pick. Okay. And then they're going to choose a negative strategy. All right. And that tends to mean either DA disadvantages, right? Almost always more than one. Right. What is their strategy? Disads and case. And topicality is like one strategy that they could choose. Critique and case negative is a strategy that they could choose. Disad, counter plan, topicality, case is a good strategy approach. All right. And then, disads, maybe more than one. Counter plan, case is another strategy. So they can choose and then they pick, right? And after they go to the first tournament, they will have a better idea of which case negs they need and whether or not their strategy is a good one or they want to make changes, but they already know where all the evidence in the world is because you already showed them. Okay. And they can just go do that. Now, are they ever going to have to cut any of their own evidence? Yeah, they might need to cut some of their own evidence. All right. And learning to produce your own evidence, right? Original evidence production is a good skill. So what should they do? They should update the uniqueness of their DAs. You always want your disads to speak the whole point of uniqueness debate is that it's a description of the status quo of what's happening right now. So we want it to be as updated as possible when it comes to the tournament. And they should go update the uniqueness on the Monday right before the tournament. So if the tournament's on Friday, they should update their disad uniqueness on Monday, right? So that the week of the tournament, they have evidence that is like, here is what it says. And it's also very defined. It's very easy to go find. You know what your uniqueness is. So if they're like going to read an elections disad, they are going to go find evidence that says Kamala is going to win now, right? If that's their disad, or Trump is going to win now, whatever is already the uniqueness of their disad, they're going to go find that, right? If they're reading an econ disad, then they're going to go find evidence that says inflation is low now, or the economy is recovering now. And they just want to make sure that the date of that research is the week of the tournament. And they don't have to change their shell if they don't want to. They can update their shell. It will be better that way, but they don't have to. All right. But they need that evidence so that if somebody else in the division says, well, I have read evidence from this month and your evidence is from like July, they can say, well, things have not changed. The economy is still headed in the right direction, or Kamala is still going to win, or, China is, US-China relations are improving now, whatever the disad is, all right? And here is evidence from this week, right? That would be very helpful. So that is a great original evidence to do. The other original evidence that they might need to find is anything that a team is saying as an answer to their affirmative case that they don't have an answer to. They can go research that. All right. So basically, they're doing what I call maintenance research. They're maintaining their affirmative case by finding new answers too that they need. Like maybe they have some answers, but they're not very good answers. So they should go find some more answers. All right. They're maintaining the uniqueness to their disads. And maybe there's a case that somebody in your league is reading and it's not on open case list. Shudder the thought that it's not on the open evidence project. And then they can go do research on that. They can work on a case hit. All right. So those are ways for them to produce original evidence without feeling like they're overwhelmed. And then the longer they're in varsity, the more of this they will do independently. Okay. So that is one major objection, right, that we had. Next major objection was we don't have any varsity. Okay. I mean, the easy answer here is you do now, right? You do. And if your debate team is going to really persist at your school, it's going to be around for a while, you will have varsity. They will grow up and grow into varsity. And just like you want to be excited for your JV when they're moving up, you want to be excited for your varsity when they're moving up. And when you do your announcements after the tournament, right? Post-tournament announcements, right? And I don't mean the ones that go on the PA system, though those are great. We love those. Definitely have those because that helps create a culture of debate in your school. But the ones that you do in your class or at your practice, right? Like, hey, we went to the tournament and let's clap and celebrate how things went. And there are always things to clap and celebrate about. Please think about those beyond just like we got handed a trophy for this. Clap and celebrate for people who were good citizens at the tournament or good people at the tournament. Clap and celebrate for head-to-head wins that were cool or that were important, or, if somebody got their very first win, all of those things. When you start with your announcements, though, start with the varsity first, and then do the JV, and then do the novice. And we lead with the varsity because the varsity is the hardest, right? They're doing the hardest work. So we lead with them, and hopefully they grow into being your team leaders. Hopefully. All right. Hopefully they're going to become your team leaders, and they're going to be the people who go out and do recruiting for you, right? Because the best recruiting is always the students. They're always way better at it than we are. All right. So it's okay if you don't have any varsity now. They'll become varsity. They'll get seasoned. You'll really enjoy it. All right. So the last objection is coaching. We don't have the coaching for this, Toni. Look, there are not a million fantastic answers here. The easiest answer is volunteer college debate coaches, debaters. College debaters love to volunteer to coach. Help them meet your students in person. Like, it is really important that they have a person-to-person experience. And because then they become invested and they like your people because you like your people are cool and they'll like your people too. All right, have them meet as people, and work with your students, right? In person, hopefully at least once. All right, and then, your college coach can do your varsity Zoom team meetings. All right, college kids tend to work a little bit later in the evening, so these varsity meetings probably aren't going to happen at your regularly scheduled practice. So your varsity debaters can come in and help you with your novice and JV debaters during your regularly scheduled practice. But during varsity practice, you're gonna have your college coaches meet with them pick a day and a time of every week for 2 hours, because 2 hours is kind of the minimum level of a varsity practice. All right, to get together on the Zoom and practice. All right, and let the college coaches run it. I'm not saying give them free reign. Definitely check in with your team. Make sure that they have an affirmative case, make sure that they have a negative strategy, that they like the college coaches. Definitely talk with the college debaters about like what is appropriate behavior in your school. But these people are amazing. And I know because I gave a ton of my time for absolutely free. All right. To a high school debate program, and I loved it. It was one of the best times of my life. And it's not just me. There's tons of us doing this through our college debate career. We don't all need to be paid in money. Some of us just like to be paid in the joy of helping coach. Like, we love debate and we want to share that love with your students. That's all. That's all we want. We're going to show up every week and we're going to come to your tournament. We're going to judge for you. And we are just like so deeply committed to your league and to debate. And if we have built a bond with your students and you as a coach, we're going to keep coming back. All right, because we just really enjoy this. So that is something to keep in mind, right? Like, they might just really, really enjoy it. They're going to come and do this for free. It doesn't mean that you don't need to have any guidelines or any cap on it. Definitely, talk with them about your expectations and, whatever it is that you think is appropriate for your school. Also, keep in mind that when your team has like team events, like let's say you do your holiday party right before winter break, or you do your end of the year party, right? Invite them to your team events because they're part of your team now. And don't forget at the end of the season to thank them. All right, with like a certificate or like a little trophy, from Target, this #1 coach or a #1 coach mug, right? Like, they are going to do a lot of hard work for you and your team, and just letting them know that you appreciate it, because the students probably really, really like them at this point. And, thank them in a meaningful way. All right. And think of them as part of your team. And in the same way, if they stop showing up consistently, get them on the phone, talk with them, and just explain to them like, hey, consistency is really important. And when you disappear, my varsity debaters disappear, And if you're having any issues, let me know. Like, is there a problem? Is there something that happened? Do we need to move the day and time? Like, problem solve the issues with them, as opposed to, you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that. Think of them as people on your team and treat them the same way that you would other people on your team. All right. And if you do that, you're just gonna have the greatest experience with 95% of them. All right. Some of you are thinking, hey man, there's no volunteer college coach, Toni. I feel that. And really what you're doing then is you are splitting your time in a lot of different directions. And I am not going to pretend like that is easy because I know for a fact it is not. So you don't have any volunteer coach, it's just you, right? I'm the coach of all three divisions. I feel that I have been there. It is a struggle. It is difficult. All right. You are now doing the job of two people, bare minimum. So, my first recommendation is to have a separate varsity practice. I know that sometimes it's really hard to even imagine adding to our schedule. Where would I even stick it? I feel you. I can't make you do this. I'm just recommending that if you're looking for how you transition them up, this is a good way to do it. At your novice JV practice, have them act as assistants. Right? That way you are getting more out of your time with novice and JV, which tend to be the bigger portion of your team. But your varsity practice can be nice and small, and it will give them an opportunity to improve. And one of the best things that you can do in those practices is practice debates. The truth is that varsity debaters often think that they're beyond practice debates, and they really need the practice debating. So you can have them practice debates. You can have them flow debates on YouTube. Right, these college debates, especially college debates, are really great for them. They're going to learn so much about debate strategy, and it's going to improve their flowing. And they're just going to be thinking about like, oh, what are these college kids talking about? And there's like a million college debates on YouTube. Look for NDT or CETA debate rounds, and then one will take you to another. And don't worry about it; you'll find a whole wormhole of debate. And the other thing that you can do is target speeches. Okay, so once you know what your opponents are saying, you can say, okay, today I'm going to pretend to be Bravo, right? Or I'm going to pretend to be Downtown Magnets, or whatever school is the school you debate a lot or is in your division that you're going to debate. And I am going to make their negative arguments against your case, right? Because I'm the coach, so make my neg args. And now you are going to do the 2AC. All right, and then give them some feedback on that. How did that go for you? Are you answering all the things? Are there arguments missed? Are there arguments that you don't think they have a very persuasive answer to, right? And honestly, even just the process where they are prepping, all right, is really great for them. But do make sure you get them to give a minimum of 1 2AC speech before they leave. And I strongly recommend that you get them to give a 2AC and do a redo of that speech, that they get some feedback and then they do it again. This is a really great way to get them prepped for rounds. All right. And then last but not least, you can do some neg strategizing discussions. Okay, this school, Notre Dame, says X or Y when they're affirmative. What are we going to say? Right here are the advantages that they're making. What is R1NC going to look like? Everybody get it out. All right, let's read it and make sure that it fits in the 8-minute time frame. All right, what are some cross-X questions that we want to ask them? Do some strategizing. It's fun. Okay, so these are great ways for you to run your varsity practice that are going to help push your varsity debater skills, even if you're not deeply skilled, even if you're like only one practice ahead of them. These are things that are going to push their skills. But as you can see, to do this, you really do need to have a separate practice session for them, because it's very hard to do these things, which are intensive work, while also trying to teach your novice the novice pack, or trying to teach your JV the critique. Okay, so those are my suggestions for how you move up. The best part is just the enthusiasm of it. I mean, it's great to go into varsity because that's where debate gets real. That's where you can say any argument that you can create. That is where all the magic happens in debate. It is the funnest, best part of debate. So be enthused for them, and then that enthusiasm will spread. Because if you're terrified, the terror will spread, the dread will spread, and then they'll just drop off the team. Because if you're afraid of it, and you're an adult, they're obviously going to be concerned about it. All right. So keep in mind that they are ultimately a mirror of some of our own behavior, whether we realize it or not. I'm not saying you can prevent their dread. I am saying that your enthusiasm will help reduce the amount of dread and giving up that occurs in the process. And honestly, varsity is literally the best part of debate. Yes, it's hard, but in the words of Dallas Perkins, long-term coach for Harvard, anything that makes policy debate harder is good for it. And that's because it works our brains. And that's the point of doing all of this in the first place, right? We're like building our brains in ways that we never even imagined were possible, and creating possibilities for us that were not there before we joined the speech and debate team. And the greatest part of that, the real secret sauce, is varsity. So be enthused, be excited for them, and be excited for yourself. Good job. You've kept these debaters learning and interested in nerd games for so long. They're varsity debaters. Good job, coach. Be proud of yourself. All right. It's nothing to be afraid of. You're just good at your job. All right. Good luck this season.